Well, a new rumor report came our way today suggesting a new Black Panther could be part of Avengers Doomsday, and it would see the return of T'Challa. Now, let's take a couple minutes to talk about this story, what's really going on, and why it actually makes sense for this Marvel Universe that's kind of reforming itself before a soft reboot in Secret Wars, before its upcoming soft reboot. Well, honestly, one of the saddest moments in the history of Marvel Studios didn't happen on screen. It happened off screen, and that was the death of Chadwick Boseman. I really can't think of an actor that carried himself with more class and grace than Chadwick, and he brought the Black Panther to life in a way that was, well, kingly, and I really can't imagine anybody else being able to do that. Now, sadly, we lost him to cancer, and Marvel Studios decided to pivot with the character, having the mantle be passed to his sister, played by Letitia Wright, in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Now, I think there was a lot of positive reception to this, and many of us were expecting her to return as the character in Doomsday, which has been confirmed, and maybe even play the character again in Black Panther 3. But there has been a lot of conflicting reports. Now, back in January, in case you don't remember, the Hot Mic podcast, Jeff Snyder, said that Marvel was looking to recast the character ahead of the upcoming Avengers movies and Black Panther 3, suggesting that T'Challa would indeed return. Now, when this rumor dropped, it assumed it would be a multiverse variant, or maybe even potentially an older version of the son that we met in Wakanda Forever, which at that time, Marvel was clearly laying the framework for this character to eventually take the mantle, but if I remember correctly, he was 6 or 7 years old. Now, since then, we've heard a lot of conflicting reports about what Marvel's plans are for Wakanda's protector. Now, there are many sources claiming that Shuri will maintain the title, and we do know she's part of Avengers Doomsday, so it's all but assured she is indeed going to play the character another time. But now, according to a new report, she might be joined by a second Black Panther character. Now, I want to be careful here because this report comes via My Time to Shine Hello, not Kevin Feige, not Marvel Studios, or in the case of Avengers, the Russo brothers. So we're taking it with a grain of salt and keeping in mind the track record of the resource, because that's the key in order to determine what's real and what's not. And that's kind of, well, for you to decide. Now, according to My Time to Shine, there will be a second Black Panther in Avengers Doomsday, and they went on to say that they believe this will indeed be the son of T'Challa and Nakia, and not a variant of the character. Now, if you remember correctly, there was some leaked Doomsday concept art several months ago, and it appeared to feature actor Damian Idris as the new Black Panther. Now, the Russo brothers denied that this was official, but it doesn't mean he hasn't been cast in the role, or it at least could give us some idea of the type of actor Marvel will be looking towards to fill these very, very big shoes. Now, this is all complicated by fan response online, because there are a lot of people in two separate camps. One camp, the recast T'Challa camp, has from day one wanted the character recast, and generally never supported Shuri having the mantle passed to her. Doesn't mean they didn't like the movie, this was just their preference. Now, on the flip side, there's a lot of support for the Letitia Wright Shuri, and many people want to see her continue in the role. Now, for me, these internet fights often involve people digging their heels in, which makes for an uncomfortable lack of flexibility. But given what's coming up in Secret Wars, this is Marvel's opportunity to sort of reset the slate. Now, we recently were talking about the possibility of Chris Hemsworth being done as Thor, and many of the other OG Avengers like Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, and Natasha Romanoff have all exited the universe. With that said, I think Marvel's new universe post-Secret Wars is going to reflect the traditional comics quite closely, and we'll see them basically recast many of these characters. As we've talked about in the past, Marvel basically has two paths for many of these characters moving over the long term, and that's to either pass the mantle, like they did with Captain America or Hawkeye, or to simply recast the actor. Now, they've definitely tried to pass the mantle, and I think it's fair to say results for that have been, well, mixed, and definitely not the response they wanted to see. When you look to other franchises that have just recast the actor, like Batman or James Bond, well, they often find great levels of success and even hype surrounding the new actor playing the character, and I think this is something Marvel is going to lean into. This to me means whoever becomes T'Challa in the upcoming Doomsday or Secret Wars will probably be holding that mantle post-Secret Wars and will be the primary Black Panther for Black Panther 3. Now, this doesn't mean Shuri doesn't continue in the costume or continue to maintain her powers with the heart-shaped herb, but it does mean some major changes for the mythos within the MCU for Wakanda, and I highly suspect it will become more aligned with traditional Marvel comics. Now, obviously this is speculation on our part, so we're going to follow this one real close. The Black Panther character has had a huge impact and the movies are beyond successful, making around $2 billion in just 2 movies, which is absolutely incredible. So the character and the franchise are not going anywhere, it's how Marvel chooses to utilize them, and that is what the big question is, and it seems like they're leaving all options open. So, until we know more, what do you guys think? Are you okay with Marvel Studios adding a second Black Panther to Avengers Doomsday? And if T'Challa was to be recast, who would be your pick? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Before we take off, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and ring the bell for all the updates. We do daily Marvel and DC news, and we want to bring you all the news truthfully and transparently so you're really in the know.